Hi, this is Troy Stavros with Cornerstone Realty Associates, and it is time for my monthly market update for East Tennessee and the Knoxville area. All the data through April is in, so we're going to jump in and take a look and see how the market is doing right now and through the end of last month. So let's start with East Tennessee as a whole. So this is looking at all of the housing market within the East Tennessee area, looking at April of 2024 versus April of 2023 year over year. So home sales are up 14.6% compared to a year ago. Pending sales are up 10.1%. The inventory of homes available is up 35%. So there's 35% more available homes on the market today than there was 1 year ago. New listings are up 22.3%. And the median sales price in East Tennessee is up 9.61% compared to a year ago, with the median sales price coming in at $353,450, with the average sold price per square foot in all of East Tennessee coming in at an average of $211 per square foot. The absorption rate compared to last month is up. Last month, we were at 2.87 months worth of inventory, and this month we were at 2.93. So it did tick up a little bit. So everything is green and everything is go as we are in the thick of the spring housing market. So things are definitely moving in the right direction. Home sales are up, inventory is up, so that's helpful for buyers. But there is still competition out there for the good homes. There is no doubt about that. Let's take a look at some of the graphics. When we look at the number of listings here, we can see that everything over the last month is ticking up compared from March through April. So active listings, pending listings, new listings, and sold listings are all on the upswing. As far as listing prices, that can be said as well. As far as the absorption rate, we said again that ticked up just a little bit, but we're still under 3 months worth of inventory in East Tennessee, which is still considered very low. A healthy market is right around 6 months, which is why we're still seeing a lot of competition in the market. Speaking of competition, when we look at the sold to list ratio, we can see that has been ticking up ever since January. So heading into the spring market like we're in now, sellers are getting closer to their asking price on average in East Tennessee. Looking at the days on the market, those are ticking down as well. So as competition heats up, days on the market is coming down. So things are selling faster. When we look and see what price ranges are selling the most in all of East Tennessee, we can see that the $300,000 to $350,000 price point is the number one selling, followed closely by the $250,000 to $300,000 and the $350,000 to $400,000. As far as pending listings in the month of April, the most pending listings came in the $350,000 to $400,000 price point. And as far as active listings that were on the market in April, the most available homes were available in the $250,000 to $300,000 price point. And as far as new listings that came on the market in April, the most new listings came on in the $350,000 to $400,000 price point. All right, let's jump and look at Knoxville, Tennessee as a whole. So this is everything that has a Knoxville, Tennessee address. So home sales compared to a year ago are up 16% in Knoxville. Pending sales are up 14.3%. The inventory of homes up 36.4% in Knoxville, and new listings up a whopping 35.8%. So everything is trending positive. Lots of new listings, but again, lots of new sales to go along with that as well. The median sales price is up 5.48% compared to a year ago in Knoxville, and coming in same as last month, as we can see on the card on the left, $385,000 was the median sales price in Knoxville, with the average sold price per square foot coming in at $212 per square foot. The absorption rate compared to last month ticked down a hair. Last month we were at 1.52 months worth of inventory, and in April, we were at 1.49 months worth at the end of the month. So with everything trending green, even with inventory of homes up, we could see home sales increased, pending sales increased, new listings increased, but with the absorption rate ticking down, that tells us that demand is actually up. So as long as the absorption rate is even to down, it's telling us there is still quite a bit of demand for homes because the amount of months worth of available inventory is lower this month compared to the month prior, meaning more demand, even with the inventory of homes higher. Okay, let's take a look at the graphics for Knoxville. We can see again, everything seems to be trending flat to up as far as active listings, pending listings, new listings, and sold listings. Active listings held flat actually compared to last month. We didn't see a lot of change in the number of listings on the market, but we did see a big change in the number of new listings, pending listings, and sold listings. So if we saw a lot of new listings come on the market, but we didn't see the total number of listings increase, that's telling you that there are still plenty of sales happening to absorb all of those new listings to keep the active listing number the same as it was last month. As far as listing prices, we can see that those ticked up last month, as well as the new median list price ticked up last month, sold median list price ticked up last month, and the pending held pretty steady. When we look at the absorption rate, like we said earlier, that has ticked down. So that's been going down ever since November. So that is just telling us we're seeing demand in the market in Knoxville. As long as that absorption rate is decreasing, that's telling us there is demand for the homes on the market. And that can also be echoed right here in the sold to list ratio, as we see that ticking up as well, telling us that sellers, again, are getting close to their asking price for homes that they're putting on the market. Days on the market also ticking down in Knoxville. And then when we look at what price ranges are selling the most, so the most sold listings in Knoxville happened in the $300,000 to $350,000 price point. The most pending listings in Knoxville were in the $350,000 to $400,000 price point. The most available inventory in Knoxville was in the $350,000 to $400,000 price point, and the most new listings that came on the market in April was again in the $350,000 to $400,000 price point. Let's take a look at some other things as far as Knoxville. So when we look at the Knoxville's Market Action Index, this is the index that basically, again, I always show this every time, but it's just like this speedometer. And the index goes further to the right if it's a seller's market, further to the left if it's a buyer's market. But we don't even reach a buyer's market till we get to number 30 on this speedometer. And we are at a 57, which tells us we are in a strong seller's market. And you can see it's an even stronger seller's market than it was last month. It ticked even a little bit more to the right. So when we look at that, we saw that actually decreasing. So we saw a lot of interest rate action happening over this period of time where rates were rising, and that affected that. But we saw that tick up a little bit higher last week. This is looking on a week-to-week basis. So this is comparing just this past Friday where we were at. And you can see we're below where we were a year ago, so not quite as much of a seller's market as it was in 2023 at this time, and nowhere near where it was in 2022, but definitely more of a seller's market than it was pre-pandemic, which is the red line down here. When we look at inventory, it has been a pretty steady increase ever since April as the spring selling market is getting into effect. So we're seeing inventory just a slow increase in Knoxville. As far as new listings, we've seen those increasing as well. But on a week-to-week basis, they came down over the last few weeks. Not as many new listings over the last few weeks, and that could have been because of the volatility of the mortgage rates. The median sales price has been pretty steady, but you can see it is below where it was a year ago. So the median sales price of active inventory is lower than it was in 2023, but higher than it was in 2022, and obviously quite a bit higher than it was pre-pandemic. The price of new listings is below where it was a year ago. Just a couple weeks ago, it was higher. So we just keep an eye on this. It's good to watch this from week to week just so we can keep an eye on what is happening in case there's anything that does not look like a normal trend. That keeps us ahead of the market, knowing where we are at in case we need to make decisions for buyers and sellers with strategies on the market. As far as price decreases, you can see this whole year has been higher as far as price decreases over the last few years. It's higher than it was typically pre-pandemic. It's a lot higher than it was last year, and it's even more higher than it was in 2022. So this is a number also that we need to keep an eye on. Right now, 44% of the homes as of last Friday had taken a price reduction. So of the homes that were active on the market, 44% of them had decreased their price at some point. So we keep an eye on this because if this shoots up, then we know there might be something happening in the market that we need to look at. But it's held pretty steady. It's come down from the beginning of the year when it was at 50%, and now we're at 44%. But it's still a number that we want to keep an eye on. But again, like we said, these last couple weeks have had a lot of volatility in the mortgage rate scenario, so that can definitely affect these numbers. Let's look over here. This looks at 90 days, these graphics, and we can see that it's been trending up over the last 90 days. Median list price has trended up and come down over the last few weeks. Again, could be because of the mortgage rates. Same could be said for the median price of new listings, has been trending up and then over the last couple of weeks came down. The price per square foot has been trending up since the beginning of the year and came in at $222 a square foot for active homes on the market. Median days on the market has been trending down, typical for this time of year in the spring market. Price decreases have trended down over the last 90 days, but we want to keep an eye on what's happening because they have gone up since April 12th. But again, could be because of mortgage rates. As far as inventory, we can see a steady increase in inventory over the last 90 days. And then the market action index, which is what we talked about here, has definitely been trending up over the last 90 days. It was 42.73 90 days ago, and as of last Friday was at 57. So definitely getting into more of a seller's market as we are in the spring market. Let's take a look real quick at the market segments down here. This breaks the market into 25 percentiles. So the lowest 25% of the market averages the price of $299.9. In that segment, you get around 1,300 square feet in a home, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, a home that's about 60 years old. And last week, we saw 43 new listings come on the market in that segment and 46 get absorbed. So more went under contract than came on the market. So that's showing you quite a bit of demand in that segment. And that segment had the active days on the market were 28 days. The next segment up was 415,000 on average. That gets you around 1,991 square feet, a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath, a home that's around 38 years old. And that segment saw 41 new listings come on the market and 28 get absorbed. So that's a pretty wide gap. We know there's still demand in that because obviously it shows the lowest number of days on the market. But this is something we want to keep an eye on because last month we didn't see this much of a discrepancy. So when we look at this data after this coming Friday, because we get new data every Friday, we'll want to see what happened in this number right here. We want to see if the absorbed number came up or if it's still considerably below, because that could tell us something about the market. The next segment up, 579.9 is the average. In that segment, you get around 2,650 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, about a 14-year-old home. That segment saw 23 new listings come on the market and 29 get absorbed. So quite a bit of demand in that segment. And in that segment, the average days on the market for active listings was 35 days. And then the top of the market, the average median price is $900,000 at the top of the market in Knoxville. Obviously, there are some that are considerably more than that, but the average of the top 25% of the most expensive homes is $900,000. And in that segment, you get an average of 3,581 square feet. You get a 4-bedroom, 3.5-bath, about a 19-year-old home. And in that segment, we saw 20 new listings come on the market last week and 23 get absorbed. So still demand in that segment as well. And the average days on the market for those homes in that segment was 35 days for the active listings. Okay, let's take a look and see what happened in the counties surrounding East Tennessee. So let's start in Roane County, looking at April 2024 compared to 1 year earlier. Available inventory was up in Roane County 44.1% compared to a year ago. Pending sales up 8%. The median sales price was up 18.18% and came in at $325,000, with the median sold price per square foot in Roane County coming in at $186 per square foot. In Knox County, available inventory was up 41.5% in April. Pending sales were up 13.8%. The median sales price was up 3.47% compared to a year ago and came in at $374,565, with the median sold price per square foot coming in at $211 per square foot. In Anderson County, the available inventory was up 59.5%. Pending sales were up 7.4%, and the median sales price was up 7.75% compared to a year ago, coming in at $299,000, with the median sold price per square foot coming in at $193 a square foot. In Loudoun County, the available inventory was up 28.7%. Pending sales were up 36.8%. And the median sales price was up 16.18%, with the median sales price coming in at $502,500, with the median sold price per square foot coming in at $232 per square foot. In Sevier County, available inventory was up 64.37% compared to a year ago. Pending sales were down 17.01%. And the median sales price was up 14.9% and came in at $500,000, with the median sold price per square foot coming in at $324 per square foot. Obviously, you can see a difference between Sevier County and the rest of the counties. Everything else is showing green and pending except Sevier County, and we've explained that before because Sevier County has a lot of investment properties, and with interest rates being higher, there is less ability to cash flow on an investment property, so less investment properties are being purchased, which means pending sales are down compared to a year ago. When we look at the final county, Blount County, available inventory is up 41.8%. Pending sales are up 6.3%, and the median sales price is up 2.57% and coming in at $379,400. With the median sold price per square foot coming in at $220 per square foot. So you can see all the counties there trending positive, more available inventory across all of the counties, quite a bit more inventory compared to last year. Pending sales are up in all of those counties except Sevier County, like we talked about, and the median sales price in all of the counties is up compared to a year ago. Okay, so that's all the data from the cards, looking at what happened in Knoxville and the surrounding areas. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening more in general with the national market, as well as how that's affecting things here. So this is your monthly dose of housing market insights. So over the past 21 months, we've seen a clear trend. Areas where listings have bounced back to pre-pandemic levels as far as inventory are generally experiencing slower growth in home prices, and in some cases, even price drops. On the flip side, markets where listings remain scarce compared to before the pandemic, home prices are still climbing there. Most places, including Knoxville, fall into this latter category where inventory keeps pushing prices upward. Low inventory or low supply is pushing prices higher because of continued demand. As we take a closer look at active listings, they really tell us about the supply and demand dynamics in different areas. For instance, the 2022 mortgage rate hike led to a decrease in both new listings and overall housing demand. However, some markets, like Austin, felt this more acutely. We're talking about Austin, Texas. There, a slowdown in the migration of people coming in, combined with locals being priced out of the market because of the housing boom, resulted in supply that outstripped demand, driving prices down and causing inventory to spike. Let's take a quick look at what that looked like here. Okay, so if we look at Austin, you can see what the inventory looked like here. So here's May of 2019. They were at 7,039. You saw the pandemic hit. Inventory was stripped way low, but then that migration stopped and people couldn't afford homes there anymore, the locals, so it made inventory climb, and now they are well above where they were in the pandemic. So pandemic, they were at 7,039. Now they're at 8,897. More supply, less demand, their prices are coming down. When we look at Knoxville, you can see the opposite. Knoxville paints a different picture. Here, the same spike in mortgage rates led to a more balanced reduction in supply and demand, keeping inventory tight and allowing home prices to continue their ascent. It's important to remember that even though the national inventory of active listings is creeping up, it's still a long way from surpassing pre-pandemic levels, at least in most of the country, unless, of course, something major shakes up the broader economy. In parts of Florida, particularly Southwest Florida, there's been a noticeable jump in inventory, hinting at a potential price drop ahead, especially in the condo market where there's other things happening with insurance and other factors. But because of that, we are seeing inventory rise in many parts of Florida. And when we compare that with Knoxville, you'll see quite a big contrast. We're looking at the Knoxville market, and you see how it pre-pandemic, it was here, trended down, and then slow rise, but still well below where it was pre-pandemic. When we look at someplace like Tampa, down here in Florida, you can see they were up here, pre-pandemic, big drop, but they're seeing big increases in inventory to where now they're almost back to where they were pre-pandemic. When we look at here, Punta Gorda, Florida, look at the difference that they have. 5-year change. So the 5-year change would be pre-pandemic, 2019. Current inventory is 48% higher than it was pre-pandemic. So you can expect prices to be affected quite a bit here for the negative. When we look at this graphic for Austin, right now they're 26% higher as far as inventory currently compared to pre-pandemic. But then when we look at Knoxville, we're still 40% below where we were pre-pandemic, which is why our prices continue to rise. And we have quite a ways to go before we're back to the inventory levels of where we were in 2019 pre-pandemic. Okay, on another note, folks always look at potential tax savings when considering a move. Just ask my father-in-law, who can't look at a house without asking about the taxes. Recent data from Adam Data shows effective property tax rates across major metro areas. So the effective property tax rate equals the average annual property tax amount divided by the average estimated market value of homes in a geographical area. So you can see they're all different on this map with a sliding scale, with the highest tax rates being the darker blue and the lower tax rates being in the yellow and everywhere in between. So you can see in this map that Knoxville is definitely on the lighter side. And it's on the lighter side because, as we see here, Knoxville boasts the 4th lowest effective tax rate among these areas, which is quite a perk for potential home buyers and for folks that own homes in Knoxville. But despite national home prices having soared over 40% in the past 4 years, property taxes have only risen about 21.6%. This mismatch suggests that many homeowners may face higher property tax bills soon, although Knoxville's favorable rate might cushion that blow a bit for residents. Looking at inflation, we've seen a sharp slowdown from 9% year over year in June of 2022 to 3.5% as of March 2024. But over just the first 51 months of the 2020s, U.S. home prices have already increased by 47.1%. This already surpasses the total national appreciation that was witnessed throughout both the 1990s and the 2010 decades. Also, that 47.1% home price growth far outpaces the 20.7% rise in overall inflation. This decade is shaping up to continue the trend of home prices beating inflation. But inflation by no means gets a pass, as we've already seen more inflation in just 51 months of the 2020s decade than in the entire decade of the 2010s. But at least we aren't where we were in the 70s and 80s. Lastly, let's touch on the lock-in effect from rising mortgage rates. A study from the Federal Housing Finance Agency found that homeowners with low rates are reluctant to sell because they'd face much higher rates on a new purchase. This has resulted in 1.3 million fewer existing home sales and has inadvertently supported higher home prices by reducing available inventory. In the fourth quarter of 2023, the Federal Housing Finance Agency found that the lock-in effect reduced the probability of someone selling their home by 57%. They also deduced that if there was a 1-point decrease in the rate, say going from 7% to 6%, it would increase their chance of selling by approximately 17%. And if the rate dropped by 2 points, say from 7% to 5%, then it would increase their chance of selling by approximately 34%. However, if the rate increased by a point, say from 7% to 8%, it would reduce the probability of them selling by a total of 70%. So despite a slight uptick in new listings over the last few months, the lock-in effect is expected to linger, making it an ongoing factor in our housing market dynamics. All right, that was a lot of information, but I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions about any of this, don't hesitate to reach out to me. We are here to answer any questions you might have, whether it's about the market or what your home might be worth or what's going on in your zip code or any questions that you might have at all. Please don't hesitate to reach out. This is Troy Stavros with Cornerstone Realty Associates, and I hope you have a great day.